Good morning and welcome to Zoom with Czarny. I'm Dustin Czarny, Democratic Elections Commissioner. Today is Thursday, July 13th, and welcome back. I'm now getting back into the candidate interviews that I started before the June primary, but now going to go ahead and pretty much exclusively be doing Zoom with Czarnys with candidates up until the November election. There's a lot of Democratic candidates this fall, and I'd like you to meet them, and so you can make up your mind about whether you want to support them or not. And to that end, I welcome to my show today my good friend Maurice Brown. Maurice is the winner of the county legislature 15th primary, and thus coming on Zoom with Czarny, and also going on to the general ballot this November. Just a reminder, my policy as elections commissioner is to be neutral in primaries. Everybody expects me to support the Democrat, and that's why we have a bipartisan elections commission. You know, we have a Republican and Democrat there, but in primaries, I stay neutral, and thus I don't have primary candidates on Zoom with Czarny either, and I barely even talk about the races, except for that there are races, and you should go vote in them. But now that the primary is certified, I can start having some of these primary candidates on. I tend to wait and see where the general election ballot is going forward. So if a candidate is moving forward and they don't have any general election contest or no Republican opponent, or even a non-Republican opponent in the general election, I tend not to spend a lot of time on those races because the winner is a foregone conclusion and there's a lot of candidates. So we'll have to see what I have time for later this year to see which candidates I can line up. But right now, I'm very happy to have Maurice Brown, the Democratic primary winner of county legislature 15th seat, and moving on to the general election. Enjoy the interview. Bye-bye. And we're back, and I'm very happy to have one of my good friends, Mo Brown. I've known Mo since 2016. Not only is he a tremendous activist here in Central New York, but I consider him one of my good friends. And he won the Syracuse primary for Onondaga County Legislative District 15 just a couple weeks ago. And so we've decided to have him here on the program. Mo, thank you very much for coming on Zoom with Czarny.
Thank you for having me. This is long overdue.
Yes, it is.
So I've been watching Zoom with Czarny for, honestly, I think since its inception. I think I've seen every episode. I'm not even gonna hold you.
Well,
like the wonky Wednesdays and all.
You're the one who's watched every episode. But it is long overdue. And as you know, my policy has always been not to take part in primaries, even when my good friends are a part of it. And so, but now that you've won, and I can say won quite handily, you were, I think it was like 63% of the voters, chose you to be the Democratic nominee for County Leg 15.
Yes.
I think now you have to introduce yourself not just to Democratic voters, but the non-enrolled Republicans and everybody else, because you're running in the general election. So, Mo, I'd like to ask you, who's Mo Brown? What's your background?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Mo Brown, Maurice, friends call me Mo, obviously, but I am a veteran. I'm an advocate. Also, this is a thing I'm getting used to saying, but I am the Democratic nominee for county legislature here in Onondaga County in the 15th district. I'm an advisor. I'm a really good team player, but I elevate whatever team I'm put on. I really do think that if you work together, if you hear everyone out and listen to their viewpoints, I think you're gonna get results. And that's how I've operated thus far in this arena, but that's how I've operated throughout. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting all of the voters now and not just the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, so you were not the county committee nominee, but you did run, as is normal here in Syracuse. There's always primaries, and you ran a positive campaign, and you The voters seem to, obviously react to that. But now you have to shift tactics to go into the general election. But, kind of before we get into that, what do you think why are you running for county legislature? I know you've already kind of answered that to the voters, and they elected you, but this is, kind of a new audience. So why are you running for county legislature?
Yes, so I'm running like the shortest version because Onondaga County needs to do more for the city of Syracuse. So fundamentally, when I think of city planning, when I think of region planning, I haven't seen a place where it's worked without a strong city center. And we don't focus on building up our city. And I think that, we need to do that. So building up your city, it looks like investing in housing. It looks like creating low income and affordable housing. It looks like, restoring our society, our safety net, like social services, and Department of Health. It looks like building a robust transportation system where, missing one day of school doesn't mean you have to miss, the whole day of work, where, just missing your bus doesn't mean you have to miss class. I say class, so I work at OCC. For those who don't know, but I'm a success coach and I meet one-on-one with students daily. And that kind of pushed me into it too, where like I get to see the students of our, the young people in our community, and they like still have hope. They still want to get things done. But the barriers in their life, like the things that are stopping them from getting to their goals, it's not calculus. They know calculus. They know anatomy and physiology. The barriers that are blocking them are you can't get on campus by bus by 8 a.m. Like there was a period where that just wasn't possible. Like that's a real barrier. You don't have childcare, so you can't do evening classes. You don't have a good housing situation. Like the barriers that our children, our students, our young people are facing, it just needed intervention greater than OCC could give. And it kind of forced me into the conversation because you can only sit on the sideline for so long. But I'm running to eliminate those barriers for young people and all people, really. My experience working through OCC has been mostly with young people, but OCC sees a lot of non-traditional students. I have a lot of students here that are in their 40s, 50s, starting second careers, and they're facing those same barriers. And we have to work to remove those barriers, and that's what I want to do, what we're gonna do.
So, and that's the new district, OCL 15, is all inside the city of Syracuse. I think a lot of times when in previous years we would talk about the 15th district, and it used to stretch from the valley all the way out into Onondaga to get it. Now it's still kind of malapportioned. It's inside the city of Syracuse, but it goes all the way up from Strathmore down into the lower valley, and then around and up into the university and Westcott area. So that's a diverse district. What are some of the needs of that district?
So the district is all Syracuse, and the district is diverse. Like they're very different communities, just like demographically, the valley looks different than like Strathmore or even, the University or Meadowbrook neighborhoods. The age ranges of the constituencies will vary, but wherever I go, the issues are pretty much the same. Whether, we're in the valley or whether we're in Strathmore, folks need help improving their homes. They need help getting the lead out. I spoke with someone, so I knocked doors all over the district. That's how you win. If you're listening to this and you don't know how to win a campaign, you got to speak to everybody multiple times and then send your people back there. But in speaking to people, you have those conversations. And like in the university neighborhood, our housing stock is struggling because we have landlords that in most cases are not in most cases, but in a lot of cases are absentee. So like they just aren't present. And once the student graduates, whatever they complained about, the hot water didn't work, that just becomes the next student's problem. And like over time, our housing stock has degraded. So in that neighborhood, we need to improve the housing. We need to fix the lead pipes. We need to fix the window seals to make sure those, things aren't harming people. But if you go into the valley, if you go into the south side over on Brighton Ave, you'll see some of the same problem. Transportation is a citywide problem. I think it's a countywide problem. Honestly, I think it's a regional problem. If you just look at, how we do transportation here in Central New York, I think there's a lot of ways we can improve. But, folks are in agreement with that, where, we do transportation backwards. And we do transportation where, like, we'll put Micron in Clay. We'll put, an Amazon facility and do it. And now we got to figure out how to get people there. If you look at, the more traditional model of transportation, you put your transportation plans in place first, and you make sure they're full service. And then major businesses are like, okay, this is the business corridor. This is where people are able to get to easy. This is where I'm gonna put my barbershop. This is where I'm gonna put my, my chip plant or whatever the case may be. And we just haven't been doing it that way. And I want to do it that way. I think there's a lot of momentum towards doing it that way with the bus rapid transit conversation, and I'm looking forward to being a part of and pushing that conversation forward. But just fundamentally, we got to start taking care of people over business. Not necessarily business, but just like profit. Like, we do a lot of things on the county level that generate revenue, but we don't use that revenue to help the people. We just use that revenue to do more things that will generate revenue. And you got to invest in your people. I really do believe that, if we don't have a strong core, the folks in this area, in my district and beyond, if they don't have good housing, if they can't get to work, the other things won't matter, because it's the people that's the real value. So yeah, that's what folks are telling me, and that's what we're going to address.
I'm glad you talked about, what the county does versus what they can do.
Yes.
Because that's always been
Yes.
pushback on these ideas of like transportation and social services. Although the county is very big in social service, they're supposed to be anyways. But I think where I'm
Yes.
going with this is that they
Agreed.
say things like, we're not in transportation. That's not our role. But then they go and buy an aquarium on the credit card, and so and I know you've been outspoken about the aquarium. So,
Very.
what are thoughts about the needs of what the purpose of county government should be versus what we're doing right
now? Absolutely, and yes, I have been outspoken about the aquarium. And honestly, we should stop the project just so that we can do an environmental scope of work. Like, we should, have a DEIS. We should do all these necessary steps that we've done with 81 and we've done with, other big projects in the region, but we're rushing through for whatever reason. But I want to stop that project. And ultimately, I think that this was a real missed opportunity. So the funding for the aquarium, that was, ARPA funds. I'm more explaining to folks listening, but like that American Rescue Plan, that money.
Hold on, Mo, I don't think it's ARPA though. I think they're trying to. They were going to do it on ARPA, but they're now doing it off surplus funds from the county budget. So just I want to be clear about that, because I don't want anybody saying, "Oh,
So my understanding though was the surplus was created because we didn't spit, like we just used the ARPA funds to pay for a thing. But yes, the semantics do matter. They do matter, and I won't ignore that. But like, if you just look around the country, so one of the things that I want to do, I'm big on housing. I would have liked to did, an $85 million investment into our housing, where we could have bought several land bank properties, and then with this new money, we could have used it to do the improvements those properties need. And we could have gotten people into those houses right away, created tenants that would have, started paying back. But more importantly, it would have helped get people in homes. That's the kind of things that I want the county to do. So, you made a good distinction about what the county does and what it should be doing. And I think that that's important. If you look at the investments that our county makes, they just aren't in people. They're in, the amphitheater. They're in like, not auxiliary things, but we need day-to-day investments. We need to put food on the table. People shouldn't have to drink, water with lead in it. That's not a high ask, I don't think. And I think the county, being in a place of strength, we have a rainy day fund. We have, really good credit score. So we are able to bond for things. Like we need to use that to help people. And, obviously we need to restore the Department of Social Services to, pre-pandemic staffing levels and bigger. If we're being honest, I think that the need is greater now. So, the staffing should be greater. But, the Department of Health, the same thing can be said. And then going forward, I think the county needs to come to the table on the big conversations in our region. I really do that. So like one of the things that bothers me, and honestly, I'm looking to do it as soon as possible, but the county doesn't even have a transportation committee. Like that's how low of a priority it is for us. And, we have a lot of people in the city that work at Amazon, that work at St. Joe's in, Fayetteville, that work at, that will be working at, Micron very soon, like yesterday. Transportation is going to be a county conversation. And we can't ignore that on the county level. And I think that, the county does get to appoint someone to the central board. So we are a part of the county conversation. We are a part of the transportation conversation. And I think we need to take a much bigger role. And I think we can, and we're going to.
What I think is going to be very interesting in the next, if you're elected, we also have Palmer Harvey, who's unopposed, Nodisha Hernandez, who's unopposed, Charles Garland, who's unopposed. That if you're elected, we're growing the ranks of the diversity on the county legislature by quite a bit, and also for the first time in my memory, the Democratic caucus. Well, hopefully it'll be larger. But it's going to be significantly more diverse as well. How important is that? I mean, is just the fact that we're going to have people of color and more people of color and women of color on the legislature, is that going to make some of these conversations different than has happened over the last, for whatever?
The last however long. And yes, you are absolutely right. I think that the diversity of this group coming in, racially is very important. You have, Palmer Harvey, young black or younger black woman, none of us are young anymore, even I'm old, apparently at 31. But you have me coming in as a young black man that, works at a community college. Folks thought I was a student at OCC at the doors. Folks would say, "Oh yeah, you go to OCC, right?" I'm like, no, I work there. But that matters, the race of it, but I also think the age of it matters. I think the experience of it matters, where like, Chris Ryan has been in the legislature for a little bit now, and then you have a bunch of us that are like brand new. So like, if you've been dealing with the same problem for a long time, it's hard to think like, you just get in that tunnel vision mode where it's like, this isn't working. How do I break out of it? I think having a fresh set of eyes on the problem is going to be huge. I really do. I think just bringing in new energy to the conversation is going to be beneficial. But moreover, and the reason I'm really excited is that, we have activists, we have organizers. Like Palmer Harvey, her work with the tenants union is like known around the state. She's a really good organizer. I think that I'm a pretty good organizer myself, where, I'm able to get people to the table. I think that the conversations we're facing are huge. Like, I don't think no 17 people. I think, the 17 legislators, we're the voices for the community, but we need a lot more people to the table. And we're people who have experience bringing people to the table. And I think that kind of legislation is what our county needs right now, because the people in charge of the county, the Republicans, they are successful because they're able to like do things not necessarily sneakily, but like quietly. And they make these big changes with, public notice being really short, and they count on people not knowing. And I know for a fact I'm going to use my platform whenever I think the county is doing wrong. But I know Palmer, I know Disa, I know others are going to do that too. And that's what we need. We need, activists. It's weird that I'm saying this because it's like backwards, because the Democrats, we're usually the opposite, and the Republicans are usually trying to disrupt the progress that we're making. But I think that the county, we need disruption in that we're rushing into bad decisions. And it's because we're trying to avoid public accountability. Whether it's the aquarium, we made the purchase, bought the land. Now we're like, oh, it's poison. Let's do we should have done that first. Honestly, the whole aquarium process at all. But if you look, Janesville, another example where rush decision, and then we had to pump the brakes because we didn't do that homework beforehand. We need to start doing that homework beforehand. And I'm looking forward to, putting a wrench in the machine and, really sending the beacon out okay, here's what's going to happen in the community. How do folks feel about that? And then when a large majority of folks start stepping up, I think that we're going to start to see change. I really do.
So now we move on to the general election, and you're running against a guy who's also
with
named
my name.
Yes. But he says he's an independent, but he's a registered Republican, filed Republican petitions, decided to decline them, then filed independent petitions. And I think part of the issue there is that you have an extremely gerrymandered map that we've talked about many times on this program, and the map itself is overwhelmingly Democratic in the 15th district now. It's probably the district that changed the most from the previous map to this map, because they kind of stacked all the Democrats in there. But we see this happening in the 15th, we see this happening in the 7th. Republicans are running candidates but trying not to be Republican. They're saying that they're independent, even though they are registered Republican, longtime Republican committee members, so on and so forth. What are you going to do? Because I know you're not going to stop working. You're going to continue campaigning. You're not taking this for granted. I've known you for so long. I don't think you've ever stopped working in your entire time I've known you. But that is fair. And of all the activists in town, you love doors. I know that about you. But what are you going to do different in the general election as opposed to the primary election? How are you going to get your message out to people who may not be turning out this year because it's an odd year, and that's that we're still working on odd year elections, at least for now, anyways, on this. So what are you how's your campaign going to readjust?
Yeah, so to be clear, we will still be on doors. I want to be very clear about that. We will be knocking doors. We may go to different doors, but we will still be on doors. However, we're going to adjust in not necessarily messaging, but who we message to. So I still want to talk about transportation. I still want to talk about housing, but we need to have those conversations more broadly. I do want to meet with different constituencies that I just wasn't able to get to during the primary because so much was happening. The college campus crowd, I feel like they have a really big voice in our community. And we just weren't able to get to them because, the crunch time of the election, late May, June, there's just no students here. But they will be here in October and November. And, I want to get them engaged to the process. So one of the things that really bothered me and, I want to work towards it was if you look at the makeup of the district, like you said, it starts in Meadowbrook and it swings all the way to the near west side, right before St. Lucy's, literally. I knocked doors across the street from St. Lucy's. And if you think about that, the other end of it is 2 blocks from Nottingham High School, literally as far possible. But the turnout over there has just been low because there's a community that's been neglected, and I don't want to neglect them. I want to make sure everyone gets to be a part of the conversation. So I want to do a lot more of that. I am looking forward to working with the different Democratic candidates. I want to work with Emily Essie. I want to work with Bill Kenny. The folks that are running countywide, because I think every election is important, obviously. Pretty sure everyone who's come on here has said that, and I will join the chorus. However, I mean it. My election was never about just me. It was about Blake Carter. It was about, Carrie. It was about Emily. It was about, Senator May, Mary Kuhn. It was about bringing a big coalition to the table, and I want to use the general election to fortify that coalition. So that's going to mean, reaching out to different people. It's going to mean a lot of one-on-ones this summer. I want to meet with a lot of people one-on-one and, hear how the county's been failing, or have the county not been. Maybe the county has been succeeding in some areas and we need to build on that. I think this campaign is a great educational opportunity, and I want to use it as such because this whole process for me has been learning, but now we got to start applying the learning. So, I want to learn up until November, and honestly through November and throughout, the entirety of my time in office. I'll always be learning, but I want to start applying the things that we've learned. And I think that that's going to be the biggest change you'll notice, where like now we can start making plans for what to do. Like it's not hypothetical. Now it's like, I'm going into the general with a lot of confidence in our campaign that we're going to follow through. We've proven that, we're able to work really hard. We're able to, get a lot of people to the polls. We can excite the voters, and we want to continue that energy throughout. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I really love how you were talking about though, like working with the countywide candidates, and because you are running for county legislature, but it's a city seat, and
Yep.
You've followed my wonky wonks. You know that I've been talking about turnout inside the city for quite some time.
Yep.
It's even in even years, it is lagging the suburbs all the time. Not just so turnout is and I think part of that is the lack of competition in the even year. In the odd years is because the Republicans have all but abandoned most of the city seats, and then they're running fake Republicans when they're not. But there's not a not a competition there, and competition usually is the primary, and then candidates that are continue to do campaigns, but they don't necessarily connect with the people that are running competitive campaigns in November as well. And
yes.
So I really like that you mentioned Emily and Bill, obviously, because those are races that are going to be very, important. And, Marty Basketball for county comptroller as well are going to depend on county or city turnout. And it's going to depend on people like you and Dan Romeo, who have races inside the city, to continue to work on that. So what's it like being the candidate versus an activist? I don't get to talk about this that much because but I kind of went through that a little bit myself as elections commissioner. Before that, I was like a behind the scenes person. Then all of a sudden I got TV cameras in my face all the time.
It's like, wham.
But it's like, and luckily I was able to grow into it. But being a candidate, you're going door to door all the time. And it's you on the palm card. It's you on the commercial. It's you. Your face is there. What's it like being a candidate versus an activist?
It's different. It is much more different than even I was prepared for. So, as you mentioned, I tell folks, but, I've managed campaigns. So I was Mary Kuhn's campaign manager. I was on Rachel's team. I worked on a campaign in Ithaca with Anna Kellis. So, I've worked on campaigns before, and I've knocked doors before. I've made phone calls. All of them are different when you're the candidate. Like the door knocking experience is totally different. And you learn, folks really do care. We think that, the average person isn't paying attention. Politics is just another thing, blah, blah, blah. But people are paying attention. I've had so many issues come up to me at the doors, whether it was the school board changing the times, or the aquarium comes up a bunch, but also the county and their operations with the Nation and Tully and Murphy's Island. Literally people are paying attention and they want to talk to you about it. And I think that's the beauty of it, because as an activist, folks would have conversations with you. But as the candidate, most of the people wanted to talk to me, and I appreciate that. And then the other more practical thing that the folks who work on campaigns are going to understand this and laugh, and the folks who don't are going to be a little confused, but this was the easiest campaign I've ever had to work because I was the candidate. So as a campaign manager, you spend a lot of your time managing the candidate. You have to explain to the candidate that, we should not be at this parade. We should be knocking doors. You have to explain to the candidate, like, we have to send mail to these people, not to everybody. Like, you have to have these conversations with the candidate that take a lot of time and energy. And, you got to do research to prove to the candidate, and all of that's gone. There's none of that, because me and this candidate are in line because I am the candidate. But yeah, that's a big difference.
It's a lot easier to convince the candidate to do something when you are the candidate. Yes.
Yes. The conversations is different. I will say my campaign manager was awesome. I'll shout out Aiden. He was definitely a force, and we went back and forth on different ideas, but a lot of time, in my work and our work, we introduce first-time candidates to the process, and a lot of the things about campaigns are just really confusing to the untrained eye, and they aren't to me. I knew we needed to raise $15,000, and I knew exactly what each of those dollars needed to go to, and I didn't have to explain that to the candidate because it was me. So yeah.
And you did. You were a fundraising machine during this campaign, and I know that doesn't stop, because you do have, in fact, your costs are going to go up now that you're going to go to the general election. So in the show notes, check out Mo's website if you're interested.
Please donate.
Volunteer, donate, whatever you want. I'll put that in the show notes. But we're starting to get towards, about the time on this podcast that I like to start wrapping up, but I always wrap up with this question. What haven't we talked about? It's kind of a catch-all question, but you can talk about whatever you want, the campaign, yourself, issue, or even elaborate on something that we talked about earlier. But what haven't we talked about? What do you want the voters of the 15th district or Onondaga County to know?
So one thing that kind of bothered me throughout the race, and I won't go into too much detail, but my opponent was a great person, friend of mine who's spoken. I think he's awesome. But his resume just looks different than my resume. Like, he's worked for, like Mayor Bloomberg and Mayor Walsh, and I was in the Army, and like I worked for a community college, just like different. And throughout the campaign, the narrative was like, Mo, young, charismatic, energy. And like him, smart, established, and etc. And, I like to think that I'm a smart person. I like to think that, I'm someone who, when presented information, I'm able to make an educated decision. I do. I pride myself on that. I think that's gotten me here. And, I am someone of, high intelligence. I do have charisma. I am high energy. I am going to bring an energy to the county legislature that we've never seen before, and I can't wait to do that. However, it's not going to just be, throwing things at the wall. These are going to be like, I've thought through these plans. Like, I'm working with some of the smartest people in the region on climate, on housing, on transportation. And I'm working with them because they know stuff. Like, it's not just me having an idea in my head and running it through. It's well thought out. I'm very thorough. Being in the military has helped with that, but also, just my upbringing, the communities I've lived in. You have to check every dot. You have to cross every T. And I'm going to bring that kind of energy to the legislature, where it's going to be high energy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be in your face, but it's going to be educated. It's going to be fact checked. It's going to be, scholarly review. Everything that I've put out, everything you've seen of my mail, my digital, all of it, several eyes have seen it before it got put out, because I know that, you can miss some. So, you need to have a team in place, and I'm going to continue that way. So, when you vote for me, when you elect me in November, you're going to be electing someone that's going to do the homework, and that's gonna, put the best plan forward. Can't wait.
Yeah, that's it. It's about being willing to work as a team, but also being willing to stand up for your values as well. And that's what I've known about you. And Mo, I just want to take this time to say I'm so happy that you decided to run and that you're in this position. And if you do win, you're going to be my boss. So that's interesting too. But
change is coming.
But I also want to thank you, because you've been a force in the community. and whether it's standing up against redistricting or gerrymandering, or even some of the more colorful controversy that I've had. You've been the first person willing to say I'm standing up for what's right, and that's something I admire greatly. So Mo, where can people find you on the web?
Yes, thank you. So folks should check out my website. It's www.electmauricebrown.com. You can check us out on, so I'm keeping my Twitter. I like my Twitter. It's at MoBreezy213. So that's going to be the personal and campaign. But our Facebook, our Instagram, everything else is Elect Maurice Brown as well, just like the website. And you can email me, Maurice@electmauricebrown.com. Folks have been emailing me some pretty cool things. I'm learning about like things on res. I'm learning about, all different things. And I love that. This is a learning experience. So keep it up. And you can call to 315-313-5717. My phone number is right on the website. I am going to be here for you. But yeah, reach out. Can't wait.
Awesome. Well, we'll reach out to you on Twitter as long as Twitter is alive. But
I know, right?
As long as you don't miss your rate limit here. But Mo, thank you so much for coming on Zoom with Czarny. Good luck in the rest of the campaign. And that was my interview with Maurice Brown, Democratic winner of the primary for the county legislature 15th. And moving on to the general election, he's got a great chance of being the next county legislature from that seat. That seat is being vacated because Bill Kinney, who is the incumbent, is actually running for county exec this time, which, if you remember, I had an interview with him a while back on Zoom with Czarny, so check out the show notes. Also, if you live in the 15th district, which is that weird shaped district on the southern edge of the city that stretches from Strathmore down to South Valley and then all the way over to the university area, follow Mo in the links below in the contest notes, and maybe help him out and win his campaign. Now, this weekend, for my weekly wonk, I will be doing the wrap up of the primary. So I usually do a 2-part series after an election. First part is on early voting and absentee, the alternative voting forms. We'll be doing that this weekend. And then the next weekend, it will be, I will focus on election day and overall turnout. So tune into the weekly wonk. You can also see my weekly wonk from last week that I already have up. And it's about the 2022 annual report and the financial performance of the Board of Elections for 2022. We went a little over budget because of the extra primary, but it also talks about the budget that we got in 2022 in relation to the budgets that the rest of the state got and based on voter registration. So there's some really interesting stats there to see just how hard the Board of Elections works here in Onondaga County and what few resources that we've traditionally been given. My next Zoom with Czarny will be next week. I'll be talking to Carrie Ingersoll Wood. She's the Democratic nominee for County Legislative 10th District. That's out in Manlius. That race has been traditionally close the last few cycles, so tune in for that. And then, of course, my next commissioner in a car will be Tuesday. It might be at a weird time. It might be later on Tuesday because I'll actually be on a plane and around 5 o'clock. So I'll be going back to DC. I'm one of the 2 New York representatives on the Elections Assistance Commission board for local governance. There's a new board that was started in 2021, and it's our first in-person meeting because of the pandemic and being a relatively new board. I'm really excited about that. I'm the Democratic caucus chair for New York State. My Republican caucus chair colleague is also going as well, and we are representing New York on this. And we're going to be talking to the federal government. It's an official federal government commission about the needs that local boards have for running elections. So it's a great, an extension of what I do normally in New York State. I'm now doing it on the federal level as well. So really excited about that. So stay tuned. Remember to go to dustinzarny.com. You can subscribe and get notifications for any election news content or my podcast or anything like that there. And eventually I'm going to do a Zarny seminar on online voter registration, which launched about a week ago or a month ago. But I haven't decided when that's going to happen yet. So stay tuned. I'm getting back into my regular content schedule, and we'll be getting going for the general election. Bye-bye.